Welcome back, everyone, to Gateway Tailgate, your St. Louis sports fan podcast. I am Sean Sproat, and much like your favorite club on the east side, we have a one-in, one-out policy as of late. I was out last week, and this week it's Adam Freeman's turn to take some time away. He may show up later, he may not, we will see. But the ever-present, the C2RA, Kenny Hudden. Kenny, happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day to you as well, Sean. I hope
Thank
your
you.
weather is a lot better than ours here.
To those that know, I'm in the St. Louis Embassy down in North Texas. It was 99 degrees today, I believe, which is like the coolest, and I use that term not favorably. Yeah, it was probably the coolest it's been in like 2 weeks.
Oh, that is much nicer than the 59-degree weather today that we had.
So I take it you didn't get any grilling in?
No, but I had to take my daughter to a pool party. One of her little friends has a heated pool, so they were in it.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, so I got to sit outside in the rain.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you get some grilling in tomorrow. I think it's supposed to be raining pretty much here all day. But are you a man the grill kind of guy, or do you hand that over to one of the other dads?
Oh, no, I am the man the grill person, so much to the extent of when it's Father's Day or my birthday, I'm still the one grilling.
Yeah, I don't know if that's me. I don't know.
Yep.
I feel like that's just too much of a burden. Somebody sent over something in our group that was like, I'm going to ask every single person how they want their hamburger, and then I'm just going to make it the exact same way every single time. Like, that is 100% what I would do.
See, that's why I've pretty much converted to smash burgers, because you cook them all the way through, and it don't matter. Nobody gets one. I want one that's bloody. Nope, can't happen with smash burgers.
See, that's a vet move right there. Like I said, that's why you're the captain. That's why you're the C to the A.
And you all get the fake American cheese. I don't care. No, we're not doing pepper jack on one, Swiss on another. No. Y'all get Kraft singles.
Well, to celebrate Memorial Day, let's memorialize the past like we always do to start off. Let's do This Week in St. Louis Sports. I think you are up first.
Absolutely. May 30th, 1922. Really going back in the archives for these.
Yeah.
St. Louis Cardinals and Chicago Cubs trade outfielders in between doubleheader games. Cardinals acquire Max Flack, while the Cubs receive Cliff Heathcote. Both players had hits in the night game.
Those are both like grade A baseball names. Max Flack sounds like a cartoon character.
If I was creating somebody on the show, I think that would be a name I would definitely pull.
Right now, before I read mine off, I'm going through like an entire career in MLB The Show. And have you ever seen What We Do in the Shadows?
No.
Oh, okay, well, there's a character on there called Jackie Daytona, and I've recreated Jackie Daytona in MLB The Show, and that's who I use.
I now go by the name of Daytona, Jackie Daytona. And I'll tell you something, Jackie Daytona's life, it ain't so bad.
June 1st, 1968, so a little further ahead, the Cardinals' side-arming left-hander Joe Horner ties the National League record for most consecutive strikeouts by a relief pitcher, fanning the final six batters to earn a 6-5 victory over the New York Mets, which leads us into our trivia, which I didn't just look up. How many teams did Joe Horner play for his career, which spanned 14 years and 493 games?
Okay, so I don't know if relievers bounced around like they did in the 60s, and this is probably, let's see here, Kurt Flood probably happened right around 67, 68.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say his number is actually kind of low. I'm going to say 4.
Okay. No one else to compete against you today, but unfortunately that is not the answer. The answer is 7. So St. Louis, Philly, Kansas City, Atlanta, Houston, Texas, Cincinnati. St. Louis 4 years, Philly 4 years. The rest of them were 2-1.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. Where do we want to start off first?
I would say let's just rip the Band-Aid off and talk about... I don't even know what to say about them.
Well, I assume you're referring to St. Louis City, who lost another game this past week. That actually makes 3 in basically, a 10-day period that they've lost. They've now lost, or let's say have not won in 11 games. They are currently sitting 14th in the West, only better than the LA Galaxy, who have 4 points on the season. And so, yeah, we lost in Colorado 1-0 in a game that really felt like it was there to win. What were your initial thoughts? Let's start there.
My initial thoughts were, I'm going to turn off this TV and watch something else. And I know I got some flack last week for that in the comments, but like, I'm not inspired to watch this team. And it's just, it hasn't been fun, right? Like, the first 2 seasons were pretty fun. The lead up to it and getting the team has been fun. I am in a state right now where I'm like, something's got to give, right? At this point, like, we've seen Army act decisively. We've watched Mo sit on his hands. I don't know if I can deal with another director, manager who is going to sit on his hands. I think Lutz has to do something. Or Lutz, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, I'm just really worried that it's going to be too late. They're already 15 games into the season, so we're approaching the halfway point. I'm worried that if they wait until the summer transfer window to actually finally kick it into high gear, or really kick it into any gear at this point, that we're going to run into the same thing that we did last year, where there just wasn't enough time to make a push for the playoffs. And in a league where 60% of the league, even a little more, I think it is actually 60% of the league makes the playoffs, it's pretty sad. Yeah, pretty sad.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I missed the goal, and you guys said on the text feed that it was pretty bad. Like, from everything I read, is that like this guy settled it and basically turned around and shot it while he was surrounded by all 14 of our center backs.
Yeah, so the cross came to Darren Yappe's foot, and essentially he brought it down, kind of turned, and it looked like it may have deflected into the corner. Future Sean editing is going to put up a screenshot showing that the back line was perfectly in line to keep Darren Yappe offsides, except for one player.
Josh Yarrow.
And that would be Josh Yarrow, who was an additional 10 yards past keeping him onside.
Look, I sent something over to you guys, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Sean. I know you're the soccer guy.
You're good.
I don't know what you would call it, like the matrix of Josh Yarrow's play, and it was just red all over, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know what this kid has or what Melberg sees in him to keep running him out.
I don't know. I mean, my first initial thought is injuries have to be keeping him in the lineup. But then you also have multiple other guys on this roster that can potentially play center back or are just center backs by trade. JGR has played a lot of center back in his young professional career. We've got Wenzel on a first team contract. He can't make it into not just on like the starting 11. He can't make it into the team sheet. So there are other options. I'm running out of excuses to make for Olaf. And just for the record, like, it is Sunday the 25th, 11 games without a win, and Olaf is still the head coach of this team.
So Lutz was on KMOX, I believe, today, and he said some pretty interesting things. Basically implied that, tomorrow is a holiday, but it doesn't mean we're off. I mean, it's a 5-minute clip, so I'll probably try to share it on Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever, which you can follow us at the Gateway Tailgate podcast, like and subscribe. But it sounded to me like a man who's got no other options. Like, he's got to make the call because at some point it will be his job over Melberg's.
Yeah, it was a long quote, but in there basically he was saying that they're going to take, obviously I'm paraphrasing, they're going to take 3 days to completely analyze the situation in the last week of games and then decide where to go from there. My whole issue is that do you really need these 3 days to analyze, to make a decision? Like, you can't. You're the sporting director of this team. Like, you should know that things are not going well up to this point. What do you need those 3 days for? You have Hack on the staff. Just Make the fire, put Hack in. Even, maybe it's a situation where Hack is like, I'm not going to be an interim anymore. If you want me to be the coach of this team, make me the coach of this team. You know what? That's fine. Do it. That's not the end of the world. Give him the rest of the season. Give him a transfer window. Let him do his thing. My only issue is that I personally do not think Hack was like, he didn't blow my socks off in the time that he was the interim. Is he better than this? Obviously, 100%. Like, I do think Hack would have this team in a better position currently than Olaf has this team. So, yes, that is an upgrade. I just don't think that is a trophy-winning coach. I just don't. Yeah. I think we've seen his ceiling. So, but honestly, if that is the holdup, where Hack is saying, like, I'm not going to be an interim, you need to make me an official head coach, at this point, just do it. Whatever. You can make a change down the line because, like you said, if they don't figure out something soon, it's not just Olaf's job that's on the line.
Yeah. And I think Lutz has been very good, right? Like, there are some surprising things. Like, everybody scratched their head at João Klaus because, we'd never heard of him. And Roman Berkey is old and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? He struck gold with those two. And I just don't understand. I mean, same with Ever Leuven. I think Leuven was playing in the Bundesliga too, right? When he came. Yeah. So he's got the ability to do it. I don't know. Like, are these guys friends? Like, does he not want to fire his friend? Is the Aston Villa game really that important where they're going to... Like, I don't think Aston Villa is going to pass up the opportunity to play in America just because Olaf Melberg is not the coach anymore. Like, the Premier League is set, and there's a great book. I forget the author. The guys in Men in Blazers have talked about it. It's like called The Club or something like that. And it's basically about the founding of the Premier League. Like, these guys care more about the game expanding across the globe than they do in England. So, like, Aston Villa is not going to say, we're not going to come to St. Louis anymore. Yeah,
well, it's a lot like the NFL. You've mined what you can out of your country that you're currently in. The dollars now are overseas. So, like, the Premier League knows that. La Liga knows that. The Serie A knows that. They're all doing U.S. tours. All of the leagues, all the teams are. Aston Villa would probably prefer to be in a better market than St. Louis, or a bigger market, I guess I should say. But no, I don't. I personally don't think that friendly game is what's keeping Olaf Melberg around. I know I've seen that online too, where people are speculating that. I don't know if that's the case. Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. I think it's the fact that they want him to make it to a transfer window to bring in the players that he wants because this isn't his team.
But in all honesty, Sean, like, what could he potentially bring in that's going to show me any difference? Because it seems like he doesn't even have an offensive strategy.
I don't have a good answer to that question because I haven't seen anything in his tactics, kind of like you mentioned, that really jump out at me to say that this team can compete in MLS. The problem is his style. His style is very much sit in and attack on the counter, but this team does not have really players to do that, and when they do, like Cedric Toyshirt, you miss a one-on-one with the keeper on Saturday against Colorado. But anyway... they're missing speed up top, so maybe that's a big part of it. He wants more dynamic speed, but then again, he leaves speed on the bench with Zonde Silva and doesn't play him, and so I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that question. Maybe he's looking for center backs that kind of fit the mold that he was when he was a player, which is a really dominant aerial ball playing center back. You have that in Kessler. He's just hurt. Yep. So and Baumgartel can do a lot of those things too. And it took 7 games for him to even play Baumgartel. So like I said, I'm running out of excuses. Whatever Lutz decides to do, it has to involve letting Olaf go. It just has to at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it this way: like, if he was at a different club, like a European club, he would have been fired so fast that his, sweat jacket would have still been, standing there.
Yeah, because the team would be in a relegation battle right now. If this were almost any other league. Yeah.
Correct. So I don't know. I mean, whatever.
The problem is that it's not going to get any easier than this. The schedule does not look that favorable when you look at it. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it up now here real quick. I mean, San Jose next week on the 31st. That's a winnable game. San Jose is a decent team. They've got a lot of offensive talent, and that's a game where I'm really worried that if we give up an early goal, that could finish 3-0, 3-1 in favor of San Jose. Then Portland. Portland's been really good this year. They've got arguably a MVP candidate in Costa. So I just next couple games, and then LA Galaxy. Okay, that's a win. Better be. But the next couple games, it's like, what are we really going to learn from this team by keeping him as a head coach? There's no points to be gained there, in my opinion, if he's still on the sideline.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Enough of beating the dead horse. Let's move on. What do we got next?
We have the St. Louis baseball Cardinals, who, while they lost, or they only won technically one game against Detroit at the beginning of the week, I did not realize Detroit was first in the AL Central and had a .630 winning percentage. So no shame in those games, because we just came off a swept. We swept.
Sweep.
We swept the Diamondbacks. So, I mean, you won 4-6. I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about it.
No. By the way, the Tigers' pitching is incredible. I know it didn't happen against the Cardinals, but what Tariq Screwball did this week, just pitched a complete game, his first of his career. Incredible. That dude's amazing. He's going to win a Cy Young very soon. But anyway, I thought it was, I mean, even with the 2 losses against the Tigers, I thought that's a really good week. The sweep against the Diamondbacks, all 3 of those games were 1-run games. We can't say that about this team last year or really even the year before. Yep. I'm really impressed. It's just really frustrating that the Cubs also are 7-3 of their last 10. So we've gained no ground on them.
The Cubs came back too, and I don't know what the final score ended up being, but they were down 8-3, and I watched them come back today. Because funny enough as it is, it's easier to watch the Cubs in St. Louis than it is actually the Cardinals. Which, by the way, I mean, come on, get your shit together, MLB.
Yeah, for real. That's like I live out of market and I get to watch every single Cardinal game, and it's unless they play like a Texas team or something, but it's kind of ridiculous the fact that I can watch Cardinal games but you guys can't. And
how ridiculous that is I've seen basically 2 Cardinal games all year. I listen to most of them or like watch the play-by-play on my phone. These markets that got screwed over by the regional sports broadcasters, like the leagues have to step in. This is ridiculous.
I'd imagine at some point there's going to be some massive Apple TV deal or something on the horizon. Like, I know Amazon has been like competing for it. I'm sure Apple TV, they want to expand their Friday night baseball lineups. It's going to happen.
Yeah, great, fine, dandy. But right now, like for the St. Louis Cardinals, who are bleeding attendance, like you need to be on TV somehow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
we've beaten this
totally
dead horse for fucking years.
I totally agree. The attendance today, I mean, obviously I said we were recording this on the 25th, was pretty good. Obviously it's a holiday weekend, so maybe fans are starting to come back. And I feel like they should, because this team is fun. They're exciting. They've got, right now, the guy I really want to highlight is Brendan Donovan, who I think had 2 more hits today, leads the National League in hits. I mean, we got to watch these guys, whether it be on TV or in person. This team is fun. They're exciting. They're winning games. Even like a guy like Nolan Arenado, who is not hitting well. He hit 136 over the last week. But he's the play he made today in the 9th inning to catch that ball in foul territory, falling into the net along the third base line is like, that's why you pay that guy.
And then to get that ball back to third so those runners didn't advance.
Yeah, which they ended up advancing anyway because of a stupid rule.
What they call them out of play?
Yeah, and so the runners advance and take a base.
Oh, okay. I mean, technically, I mean, it is a rule. It
is, yeah. But like I said, even the guys who are underperforming are still worthy because of like tuning into, because he's hitting like 230 something, I believe. I don't have it in front of me, but only 2 home runs, something along those lines. But like, dude, everything else he brings to the game is like that. This is why we did not move on from him. This is why we kept him. I mean, not for the lack of trying, but this is why he's still in a Cardinal uniform, is because he can do those things. Go ahead.
I kind of think of, so Tony La Russa, this was mid 2000s when Yadier Molina hit like a $120 on average. I mean, the hitter Yachty was in the beginning of his career was nothing what he was at the beginning or at the end of his career.
Right.
And basically implied it was like, I don't care if he gets up there and strikes out every pitch or every at bat. His defense alone is worth it. And I think you're seeing that with Arenado and his leadership, right?
Yeah. I mean, he willingly moved himself down in the lineup because he was underperforming with the bat. How many guys are going to do that? Very, very few in the game. Adam wanted us to talk about this real quick. He said in a text message today to us, we need to sell off youth talent to acquire a solid starter, and he listed some is. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes, with a caveat. I don't think you, at this point, how do you say his name? Garfeco and McGreevy, to me, are non-negotiables. I think McGreevy could play right now for the St. Louis Cardinals. I think he should be playing right now for the St. Louis Cardinals. I think it might be time to move on from like a Tink Hintz, who doesn't seem to be able to stay healthy, but is highly favorable. Like, it almost feels like an Alex Reyes situation, like, move him now before he comes up and he gets hurt and he never gets back to form and you're never going to get out of anything from him. But right now, while he's still kind of a mystery, trade him.
See, my issue with that is we've done that in the past. The one that comes to mind is Sandy Alcantara, and then we watch him go light it up for another team. I'm worried about that happening again with a lot of these guys that I mentioned, especially Tink Hintz.
See, and honestly, I would ask Adam where he ranks Hentz in that. Like, maybe that's why he's going to say, hey, I don't want to trade Hentz because I feel like his upside is higher. Like, again, I don't really pay attention to the minor league stuff. I know the bigger names. So that might be a question for Adam. Like,
that's Adam's bread and butter. Yeah.
Yeah. What made you not include Hentz in that? Like, is his upside so much that you're willing to risk the?
My whole thing. Whenever I look at that list of guys, I think Garcefo and McGreevy. I think I said Garfeco earlier. That's not right. Garcefo and McGreevy earlier. Those you cannot trade at this point. Gorman, I would be willing to move. He's just not getting game time. He's not getting at bats. The issue is that I think that his trade value has been significantly diminished as of late because we're not playing him. So maybe if you package him with Helsley, then yeah, you might be able to get a decent young pitcher. I just don't think one of the things that Adam said in his message here is get a young starter with term. I don't know if you're going to get that back at this point.
You'd really have to have the right team to make the trade with. Like, you need a big-time team that is looking right now going World Series or bust. And I don't know who that could potentially be without, maybe the Yankees, maybe the Doyers. But, like, are you really going to turn around and trade somebody to the Dodgers? I wouldn't.
No, but I was actually kind of thinking the opposite. Which team is severely underperforming that they're going to have to cut some guys that they're not going to be able to re-sign coming up? And my first thought is the Baltimore Orioles, who are sitting at the bottom of the AL East. They have like 18 wins.
Whew.
Looking at their current pitching lineup, I mean, do you think that's enough to get somebody like Grayson Rodriguez?
They're probably not going to be willing to trade him for a closer.
Probably not.
Unless they have
thinking.
Unless they have a deal where they're going to flip him right away. But I would also have to look at Helsley's contract and find out, like, does he have a limited no trade? What's the deal with that?
And Helsley's going to demand a ton of money coming up pretty soon here. So I guess it really depends, but That's kind of what I was saying is I don't know if that deal exists. I don't know if there is a young arm out there with term that you can bring in for the guys that we mentioned unless you actually give up one of the young arms that you have with term, which does not make any sense to do. in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the Cardinals before we move on?
Just keep winning, baby.
Yep. I'm going to their game when they're here against the Rangers over
Awesome.
the 30th and the 31st. I will report on site. Never been to that stadium. I've heard it's insanely expensive. Can't wait to spend too much money. But yeah, should be a good time. Battlehawks
Caw.
is the law that I've
Indeed.
heard. Yeah. Where you want to go with that?
7-2. They kicked the crap out of the San Antonio Brahmas on Friday night. I was at the Battle Dome in a concession stand. But I was primed. I worked at Register this week, Sean, and I was right below the TV. So I was basically able to watch the whole game, which was awesome.
That's great.
The defense stood out again to me, right? Again, we talk about, like, this is kind of like the college plus. It's not a minor league, but I would say, like, the Battlehawks theoretically should beat I don't know if they would beat an Alabama or an Ohio State, but that next tier down, like, they should be beating those guys kind of thing, right? Because that's always...
The blue bloods that's like you just mentioned. I don't know, man. I don't know if the UFL team could beat them. Just from an eye test alone, it's really hard to do because it's a different competition. But I look at like Georgia, and then I look at San Antonio, and I don't feel like those things are comparable.
That's why I'm really gonna like throw out like the 10 blue bloods that like you really have, like the Georgias, the Alabamas, Ohio State, Oregon. They're probably beating a UFL team.
I think so.
Is a Mizzou, an Old Miss, I don't even know like who else. A Texas Tech, are they beating a UFL team? Probably not.
Your SEC teams are going to compete with UFL teams, I think, just because of the brand of football that they play. Some of the other conferences maybe not. That's my first initial thought. But Adam wanted us to talk about this here, and I think this is a good place to start with the Battlehawks, considering they're close to the playoffs. Do you sit everyone next week against DC to prep for the conference championship?
Yes, because you're playing DC back-to-back, and the game doesn't essentially matter. So why take the risk of getting, at the very least, Max Dugan hurt, and then getting somebody else hurt, right? Like, just play the game to lose it at that point. I mean, the gamesmanship's got to be part of it. So
I think I agree. Football is the only sport where I actually like support sitting starters in that sense because it's such a violent game, and you never know. You could go out and lose a quarterback or your top running back like Sailor. You could lose them in an instant. That changes the entire game model. Other sports, it's like, no, man, put your best out there, beat them now, and break them before you even get to the conference finals. But I think I agree with you because if oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on the quarterback's name. Battlehawks quarterback.
Ours or theirs?
Battlehawks.
Max Dugan.
Dugan, thank you. If Dugan does go down, there's no other options. And I don't even think he's not even like lighting it up in my opinion, but like it's enough to where he's keeping them in the game. He's essentially game management to a T. I'm very worried that if he would go down, you're done. The season's over. And you already are playing DC at home when you shouldn't be. And so you've already kind of like broken their spirits a little bit. Don't give them incentive to be in that game, essentially.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying just sit your starters. You want to run them out there for 2 or 3 series and, just get them some game reps? Absolutely, sure. But I guarantee you DC's doing the same thing. And, like, they're going to sit there. Both teams are going to sit there and look at it and go, this game does not matter. It's the following week.
There's nothing to gain from it from either side. It's not like it's going to affect where the next game's played.
Correct.
Yeah. Going into just the UFL in general, we kind of talked about this very briefly a couple weeks ago. We mentioned it. I think I sent a text over to our group a few days ago. UFL fixes. We know that the league feels like it's on borrowed time, that the Battlehawks are pretty much the only market that is putting out a consistent attendance. What are your fixes for the league, realistically? And then what would be like your best case scenario, realistically or not?
Okay, so I think the first thing you do is you got to move some of the teams.
Okay.
Houston, hold on, let me find the stat I was looking at earlier. Give me one moment, please. Okay. So attendance is actually falling in Memphis and Houston. I do feel bad for Memphis in a sense because they don't have a good football team. Yeah, the Showboats are awful.
Yeah.
But I would say with the model that you have right now, where the league is based in a city, all your teams are essentially based in that city, and they don't have a home. These players don't live in Memphis, right?
Yeah.
Move the team. Move the Roughnecks as well. So I would start with that. And what I was looking at also was the best markets that watch the most football without having an NFL team.
Okay.
All right. So what do you think is the number one market in America?
That does not have an NFL team. I would
Correct.
probably. I think it's one of two. I think it's either Austin or it's Oklahoma City.
You're not even remotely in the ballpark.
Wow. Who am I forgetting? Louisville, Portland, Columbus.
Portland is number 5.
Okay, who's one?
St. Louis.
Oh, Jesus. Oh. That's ridiculous.
But it's not, right? Like, this is a football city.
I was thinking like teams that didn't even have like UFL that
Oh, no,
you
I
could
just-
potentially move the team to.
No, because
Move
remember,
LT too.
if you go back a couple weeks, I said we need to get into markets that still watch football, but like might not necessarily have any NFL connection. So yes, St. Louis is number 1. They without an NFL team, they watch the most football in America.
Okay. So
Number 2 is San Antonio. So San Antonio's got the Brahmas.
Yep.
The Brahmas average about 14,000 in attendance. I think you can maintain. For me, you have to get to 5-digit attendance, right?
Yeah.
The Roughnecks in Memphis, for me, right out. So number 3 is Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
I know how we feel about Ohio, but it might be worth putting a team there.
I agree.
Number 4 is going to shock you. There are 2 professional teams here already. It is south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Orlando.
Bingo.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So Orlando is number 4. Orlando is the second largest television market without an NFL team, larger than several current NFL markets currently. I would move either the Roughnecks or the Showboats to one of, or 2 of the 3, Columbus, Orlando, or Portland, and I would do that next year.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
I would also look at, so I just got the top 5, so I don't know any of the other cities, but I would seriously consider making sure your top 10 include, your league includes at least 8 of the 10 top 10 markets.
Yeah, that is one of mine for like realistically. I also would partner with the NFL, like a genuine partnership as a feeder league, and have some type of system in place that says like if a player played under a certain amount of games or a certain amount of minutes, they immediately qualify to play in specific markets or anything, and they can kind of be picked off by essentially by draft if they wanted to.
I like it.
Yeah, something like that. Some type of actual true feeder league with the NFL. And then my like full on non-realistic, if I wanted to happen like right away, is there's how many teams are in the league? There's 8 right now?
There's 8 currently.
I would double that. I would move majority of the teams. Any team that is in an NFL market is gone. I would move into all of the ones you just mentioned. Columbus, Austin, Portland, Salt Lake City. I'd also look at Providence, Rhode Island, Hartford, Connecticut, Richmond, Virginia. Any of the, like, just think mid-level cities, right? Mm-hmm. So 8 teams each conference and have 2 separate hubs, one east and a west.
Okay, so that kind of touches on my thing.
Right.
Which I am going to say the league should relocate from Arlington to St. Louis. And here's what I would do. If I was the city, I would try to lure them in by doing this. You sell them Rams Park. You let the UFL run their offices and run their practices out of Earth City at Rams Park. 2, here's what I do. I permanently play the conference championships at the Battle Dome, and I play the championship at the Battle Dome. While we're trying to get the attendance to where it needs to be, this is the best thing. And what I would do for fans is much in the same way that like conference basketball and college works. You buy a ticket and you get multiple games. So I would sell a conference championship ticket and you get both games.
I think that is a perfect solution if you keep it at 8 teams. If you're not looking to like expand immediately, because we've talked about how they need to go west, that there's not enough teams spanning the actual country.
Yeah, you could essentially do what you're saying and have St. Louis be the hub of one conference, and if you want to go east, or if you want to go even further west, go west and pick a city out there.
See, what I would do, if we do my scenario and you have 8 teams each conference, I wouldn't do St. Louis as a hub. I would do something like a Salt Lake as a hub, and then maybe even like a Columbus as a hub. I would put the hubs in newer markets because you're guaranteed the attendance in St. Louis already. You're not improving on the St. Louis market. You're already getting the best out of that market. So that's why I think I would consider the other two. Also, just geographically, it would make sense if you do 2 hubs, it would make sense to have those more in cities that are kind of in the middle of those regions, right? St. Louis is kind of like smack dab of the country, but if you're going to do 2 separate conferences, an East and a West, you can't get much more middle of the East than Columbus. You can't get much more middle of the West than Salt Lake. But one hub, it doesn't make any sense why it's not St. Louis currently. After the first year of the XFL and the Battlehawks put 50,000 in the dome or whatever it was, they should have moved it the next day. I don't see any reason why the hub is still not in St. Louis.
See, and I'm almost at the point too where like my thing with St. Louis is at least at the beginning of the season, the Battlehawks do really well. Like Anthony Beck's on all the shows. I mean, he shows up on the Rizzuto show. He goes on ESPN 101 all day. And, like, I think you need that. So maybe it is getting away from hubs and letting these teams operate in the cities that they play in. I feel like that is something that is definitely missing.
Oh, 100%. The Battlehawks have not endeared themselves to the city of St. Louis like St. Louis City SC has. And maybe it is because, St. Louis City, their season is significantly longer. They have more opportunities to play games in St. Louis, but also they're in the community. They have the community pitches that they've built all throughout the city. I think there's 2 going on, like 5. They're doing a bunch of them. They're constantly out there. They do these massive block parties before games. I know Battlehawks do something similar, but you only have 4 opportunities to do it. So yeah, you need those personalities actually interacting in the city to endear themselves in the city, and especially like to take it away from a St. Louis standpoint, in a market like Memphis, whose football team is garbage and has won like 2 games in the span of 3 years. That's a little bit of an over-exaggeration, but they've been terrible. You need that even more because you're not selling the product with the actual play on the field.
Yeah, so a little inside baseball, peek behind the curtain. So when we're doing these concession stands, they usually give us an idea of what attendance is going to be. And so Friday night, they're like, we expect 13 to 16 to be here because the UFL, even though this game had always been scheduled at the Dome due to a conflict in San Antonio, did not allow season ticket holders to actually have the tickets. They had to purchase them separately. My mind instantly went to, how dumb are they? Like
that. Yeah, that's my point. I don't think that they have a long-term plan for this thing to actually succeed.
I think their long-term plan is bank on The Rock, and The Rock doesn't talk about it like it's an investment to him, which is fine. It's ultimately fine. But you almost need like a commissioner, like a face of the league, somebody who will help teams make this call too. Like, I don't care. Do something ridiculous. Get somebody like a Pat McAfee to talk about them. Like, do anything. Or have a focal point, right? Like, who runs the league? I'm asking you a legit question.
Genuinely could not tell you. I don't know.
Danny Garcia or whatever her last name is. I don't know if she's been remarried. Saw her at one game. One game. I mean, for all the shit we talk about the other commissioners across all the sports, Goodell's always at a game. Not Bud Selig. Bud Selig, I don't even think he's alive anymore. Manfred is at games. Adam Silver's at games. They're doing press conference. Gary Bettman's getting booed out of every stadium in the NHL. Like, you almost need a commissioner. Like,
yeah, you do.
Operate it like a real league. So
another reason why I think partnering with the NFL just makes too much sense, even if you have to be subservient to the NFL. I know that they don't want that.
Yeah.
But then you get to slap the NFL badge on it, and that goes a long way. Even if like they rebrand you to NFL B League or whatever you want to, whatever they call it, doesn't matter.
You could still be the United Football League presented by the NFL.
Exactly.
And guys,
Correct.
look, I'm available.
And
I will be the UFL commissioner.
Should we officially start a campaign?
Absolutely.
Kenny Hutton for commissioner.
Jason Kelsey Doppelganger for UFL commissioner.
That
Sign
way, every time you walk into a meeting, there's a brief moment where they think Jason Kelsey walked into the meeting, but then they have to quickly realize it. But you got him. You got him from then on.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead. Before we get out of here, coming up this week. Did you have something? Go ahead.
Forgot to mention the quarter century baseball team. Was that Jason Stark who did that?
Yeah, it was from The Athletic.
Okay. It included 2 St. Louis Cardinals, Albert Pujols, and catcher Yadier Molina. I don't know what it is, man. Yadi gets so much hate.
He does.
But he's the best catcher I think I've ever seen. And
it's because of the offensive numbers early in his career, whenever he was going up against guys like Posey and Mauer at that time. But none of the other guys had longevity at the catcher position that he had. And then obviously, as St. Louis fans, we are constantly having to remind the nation and fans of other teams how good Yadi was from a defensive standpoint and everything else he brought to the game. So much so that it's kind of exhausting to continue to do it. But yeah, a lot of the vitriol for that group, which by the way, I'll just go ahead and just read it out really quickly. You got your infield, Yadier Molina at catcher, Adrian Beltre at third, Derek Jeter at short, Jose Altuve second, Albert at first, David Ortiz was your designated hitter, outfield, Barry Bonds, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, and then a starting rotation. Listen to this rotation. Justin Verlander, Clayton Kershaw, Roy Halladay, Max Scherzer, and then Randy Johnson as your fifth. And to put that into perspective, this is the MLB all-quarter century team. Randy Johnson only pitched like 2 or 3 of those years.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one because, I mean, that wasn't his primary, stretch, but...
Yeah, but he was also dominant at the end of his career.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, so that's a big part of it.
I don't necessarily like the Aaron Judge and Mike Trout yet, mainly because their careers aren't over, and that's not saying anything against them.
Yeah.
But if you look at the rest of that, I mean, and same with Altuve. To me, Altuve doesn't belong there yet because his career isn't over. Not to say what these guys have accomplished over that course of 2000 to 2025 hasn't been impressive. I mean, Judge hit 60 home runs. Was it 60 or what? Did he finish with 61?
I think he was over 60. I think it might have been 61.
Anywho. I don't know who I would have put there. I would have had to put a little bit more research into this, but I feel like you could have selected, where's Miguel Cabrera? Oh my God, I'm thinking of, who am I thinking of?
So I've got one big snub.
Okay,
I think whenever I say the name, you're going to be like, oh my God, of course. Ichiro Suzuki did not make this list.
There's your right fielder.
Correct. His entire career spanned the quarter century that they are referring to. So I don't understand how Ichiro Suzuki does not make this list. If we're doing just a century team, maybe Aaron Judge, because he is eventually going to surpass a lot of, not the hits total, but a lot of from the power standpoint. He's probably going to win a couple World Series too. But Ichiro Suzuki is not on this list. Come on.
Yeah, that might be the biggest snub of the list. In all actuality, that might even be bigger than Miguel Cabrera. I get Miguel Cabrera kind of gets lost in the shuffle, right? Like, he was a first baseman, he was a third baseman, he was a DH. Like, where do you actually put him on that list? I do think I probably would have put him as a DH over Ortiz, and that's not, again, this is not saying anything about Ortiz. This is more saying that Miguel Cabrera deserves to be on that list. Same with Ichiro Suzuki. I don't know if there's anybody in their right mind outside of the 5 boroughs that would say Ichiro Suzuki wasn't better than Aaron Judge, like, for the quarter of the century.
Yeah, and the 5 boroughs may not even say that. He played in New York. I mean, he played like 3 or 4 years in New York as well.
Yeah. Man, who are you going to take as a center fielder, though? That's where I'm racking my brain. I'm like, man, what center fielder are you going to put in over Mike Trout, who actually, played the game really, really well during that time frame?
I don't know if I have any. I'm pulling up and I'm looking at like the most prominent center fielders of the recent era.
I mean, Jim Edmonds is going to be on top of that list.
Yeah, but he never had. I mean, yes, he did have offensive numbers, but
I mean, defensively though, I bet he's got 5 Gold Gloves.
Yeah. I don't have a good.
I mean, again, I'm not dumping on Mike Trout. It just seems like when you look at that list and you're like Pujols,
here's
Altuve, Judge, and Trout stick out to me.
I think Trout is your center fielder for this list.
Fair.
Okay. I will say Carlos Beltran might get a nod. 2000 to 2017, although a couple of those years near the end with the Mets, not with the Cardinals, were not great.
Well,
Torrey
Beltran's
Hunter,
going to get wrapped up in that cheating because I think
correct.
They're never going to put him on the list.
The other one, you mentioned Jim Edmonds, but the other one is Johnny Damon. Yeah,
Mike Trout's better than Johnny Damon.
Yeah, so past that, Jonas Cespedes, Adam Dunn, Lorenzo Cain, Michael Brantley.
Nope.
Yeah, none of those names, in my opinion, are better than Trout. Even with all the injuries, I still think Trout is the center fielder for that list.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, but Ichiro Suzuki's got to be on there. Miguel Cabrera is a really good shout, too, by the way. I don't like Altuve on there. I don't even have to pull up the other second baseman to know that Altuve shouldn't be on that list.
I mean, my thing with Altuve would be if you're gonna not consider Carlos Beltran for that list, then you can't consider Altuve. I mean, so
I am looking it up because now I need to know. Robinson Cano should be on that list. Anyway,
but has anybody fell off harder than Robinson Cano?
True, but there were a few years in there where he was pretty good. Also, probably maybe Dustin Pedroia or maybe even Chase Utley as well. All right,
I like Chase Utley.
Yeah,
there you go
for sure. Yeah. All right. Upcoming this week, the Cardinals go to Baltimore Monday through Wednesday. Baltimore's really struggling this year. That should be a series win. Friday to Sunday, they are in Dallas. Like I said, I will be at the games reporting live. Probably. What's the word for tweeting on Blue Sky? Is there a word for that yet? Because I'll probably be doing that way too much during the game.
I don't know. We could just call it tweeting.
Yeah, we'll just be tweeting during that game. Battlehawks, Friday at D.C., hopefully resting all of their starters. And then St. Louis City on Saturday, attempt to win their first game in 12 attempts versus San Jose. Yep, and Olaf's still the head coach of this team. Kenny, what's our socials?
You can follow us on all the socials at the Gateway Tailgate Podcast. That is YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Look, guys, if you've gotten this far, give us a like, give us a subscribe, watch all the shorts. Yes, YouTube is the main vehicle, platform for us, whatever you want to say. But thank you, and that's it.
Yep. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Enjoy your Memorial Day. Enjoy the day off, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
See you.